The morning shift alarm echoed softly through the research quarters of Station Harmony. Ben Torres opened his eyes slowly, the gentle blue light from Kepler 442b filtering through the observation window. He stretched his arms and looked at the empty space beside him in bed. Zara had already left for her early patrol duties, as she did every morning. Ben smiled to himself as he noticed the small note she had left on his desk. Coffee in the kitchen, plant samples in Lab 3 need your attention. Try not to get lost in your books today. Love, Z. He chuckled quietly. After 3 years of marriage, Zara still worried that he would forget to eat when he got absorbed in his research. Station Harmony was home to over 2,000 beings from 12 different species. The massive structure orbited peacefully around Kepler 442b, a planet rich in unique plant life that scientists from across the galaxy came to study. Ben was one of only 50 humans on the station, and probably the quietest one among them. He dressed in his simple research uniform and walked through the corridors toward the central hub. The station buzzed with morning activity. Tall, blue-skinned Altarians moved with military precision toward their security posts. Small, furry Xylonians chatted excitedly in groups as they headed to the engineering sections. The reptilian Makari glided silently toward their meditation chambers, while various other species went about their daily routines. "Good morning, Dr. Torres," called out Dr. Finn, a cheerful Xylonian who worked in the botany department. His large, round eyes sparkled with enthusiasm. "Are you ready for today's analysis of the purple moss samples?" "Good morning, Finn," Ben replied with a gentle smile. "I've been looking forward to it all week. The cellular structure patterns we found yesterday were fascinating." As they walked together toward Lab 3, Finn chattered about his theories regarding the moss's unusual growth patterns. Ben listened carefully, occasionally asking thoughtful questions. Other researchers often commented that Ben was the best listener on the station. He never interrupted, never dismissed an idea as foolish, and always found something valuable in what others shared. The research lab was a marvel of interspecies cooperation. Equipment designed by different civilizations worked together seamlessly. Ben's workstation was neat and organized, with careful notes written in his precise handwriting. Holographic displays showed detailed images of plant cells, while sample containers lined the shelves in perfect order. "Dr. Torres," said Dr. Calvara, a tall Altarian researcher with pale green skin and silver hair. "Could you help me understand this protein structure? Your expertise in molecular biology might give us the insight we need." Ben walked over to examine Calvara's data. He studied the holographic model carefully, turning it slowly to see all angles. "This is interesting," he said softly. "See how the protein folds here. It's similar to structures we found in Earth's deep-sea plants. They use this pattern to survive in extreme conditions." Calvara's eyes widened with understanding. "Of course. The high radiation environment on the planet's surface would require similar adaptations." Ben spent the next few hours working with various research teams. His colleagues appreciated his calm demeanor and his ability to find connections between different scientific concepts. He never raised his voice, never argued with anyone, and never seemed stressed or worried about anything. During lunch break, Ben sat with a mixed group of researchers in the main cafeteria. The huge dining hall offered food suitable for all species, with separate sections for different dietary requirements. Ben usually chose simple human food, today it was a sandwich and fruit. "Ben, you're so lucky to be married to Commander Zara," said Dr. Mira, a young human anthropologist. "She's like a legend in the security forces. They say she can take down 3 Vorthan warriors single-handedly." Ben smiled quietly. "Zara is certainly remarkable. But I think her greatest strength is her heart, not her fighting skills." "Still," added Dr. Calvara, "it must be interesting to have such different personalities in one household. She's the fierce warrior, and you're the peaceful scholar." "We balance each other well," Ben said simply, taking a bite of his sandwich. The conversation moved on to other topics, but Ben noticed how his colleagues always seemed to put him in the category of harmless academic. Not that it bothered him. He had chosen this life deliberately, and he enjoyed the peace it brought him. After lunch, Ben returned to his private lab. This was his favorite time of day, when he could work alone with his specimens. He carefully examined samples under the microscope, taking detailed notes about cellular structures and growth patterns. The work was methodical and required patience, two qualities that Ben had in abundance. His personal lab was smaller than the shared research spaces, but it felt more comfortable. Pictures of Zara decorated his desk, along with a few small plants he had grown from seeds brought from Earth. Books lined the walls, not just scientific texts, but also poetry, history, and philosophy from various worlds. As the afternoon progressed, Ben received a message on his communication device. It was from Zara: security meeting running late tonight. Dinner at 2100 hours. Miss you. He typed back, no problem. I'll cook tonight. Found something interesting in the purple moss data to show you. Ben worked until evening, making steady progress on his research. Other scientists came and went, sometimes asking for his input on their projects. He helped wherever he could, sharing his knowledge freely and learning from others in return. When 2100 hours arrived, Ben headed home to their quarters. Zara was already there, still in her security uniform but looking tired. Her blue skin seemed paler than usual, and her silver hair was pulled back in a practical style. Rough day? Ben asked, moving to the kitchen area to prepare dinner. Strange reports from the outer rim, Zara said, sitting heavily in a chair. Ships going missing, distress signals cut short. Command thinks it might be Vorthan raiders, but we haven't had trouble with them in over 2 years. Ben nodded as he prepared their meal. He knew about the Vorthans from his studies, a militaristic species known for their aggression and their habit of taking prisoners for slave labor. They particularly valued scientists and researchers, forcing them to work in harsh mining operations. The station's defenses are strong, Ben said calmly, bringing Zara her dinner. And you have the best security force in this sector. Zara smiled at him. You always know how to make me feel better. Sometimes I wonder how you stay so calm about everything. Worry doesn't change the situation, Ben replied. But preparation does. And you've prepared well. They ate dinner together, and Ben showed Zara his research findings on his portable display. She listened with genuine interest as he explained the complex biological processes he had discovered. Even though she was a military officer, Zara had always appreciated Ben's scientific mind. Your work is just as important as mine, she said. Understanding these new life forms could lead to medical breakthroughs that save lives across the galaxy. After dinner, they spent time together reading and talking. Ben worked on updating his research notes while Zara reviewed security protocols. It was a peaceful evening, the kind they both cherished after their busy days. As they prepared for sleep, Ben noticed that Zara seemed more concerned than usual. She checked her communication device several times and looked out the observation window more frequently. The outer rim reports are bothering you, he observed. 3 ships vanished this week, she admitted. All in the same general area. No survivors, no wreckage found. It's not like typical pirate attacks. Ben put his arms around her. Whatever happens, we'll face it together. Zara smiled and kissed him gently. I love how positive you are. Sometimes I think you're too good for this dangerous galaxy. I'm exactly where I want to be, Ben said softly. They went to sleep peacefully, unaware that in the deep space around them, dark shapes were moving closer to Station Harmony. The Vorthan fleet had been tracking scientific stations for months, gathering intelligence about their defenses and valuable personnel. But Ben Torres slept calmly, his breathing steady and peaceful. Tomorrow would bring new research opportunities, new discoveries to share with his colleagues, and another quiet day in the life he had chosen. He had no idea that within hours, everything would change, and the peaceful existence he treasured would be shattered by the sound of alarms and the flash of enemy weapons. In his dreams, Ben walked through gardens filled with alien plants, studying their beauty and complexity. It was a good dream, full of wonder and discovery. Soon, he would wake to a very different reality, one that would force him to remember skills he had worked hard to forget. The emergency alarm shattered the peaceful morning silence of Station Harmony. Ben woke instantly, his training kicking in before his conscious mind could process what was happening. The alarm's pattern was specific, 3 long blasts followed by 2 short ones. External threat, hostile approach, all personnel to emergency stations. Beside him, Zara was already moving, pulling on her security uniform with practiced speed. Her face was grim but focused. "Vorthen attack ships," she said, checking her communication device. 6 vessels, heavily armed. They appeared out of nowhere. Ben sat up slowly, appearing calm while his mind raced through possibilities. "How long until they reach us?" 20 minutes, Zara replied, strapping on her weapons. "Maybe less if they have jump technology." She paused at the door. "Ben, get to the emergency shelter in Section C, stay with the other civilians until this is over." After Zara left, Ben remained sitting on the bed for a moment. The station shook slightly as the first enemy weapon struck the outer shields. He could hear running footsteps in the corridors outside, voices calling out orders and coordinates. The organized chaos of a station preparing for battle. Ben stood and dressed in his usual research clothes. He walked to their small closet and moved aside some of Zara's old uniforms. Behind them, wrapped in dark cloth, lay a long object he had not touched in over 4 years. His fingers hesitated for just a moment before he pulled the bundle out and set it carefully on the bed. The communication system crackled to life throughout the station. "All civilian personnel report to designated emergency areas immediately. This is not a drill. Repeat, all civilians to emergency shelters." Ben unwrapped the cloth slowly, revealing a sword unlike anything else on the station. The blade was just over 3 feet long, made of a dark metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange symbols were etched along the fuller, characters from an ancient Earth language that few people in the galaxy could read. The grip was wrapped in black cord, worn smooth from years of use. The weapon had a name, though Ben had never told anyone what it was. In the old language of his order, it was called Whisper of the Void. It had been forged specifically for him during his final year of training, crafted by master smiths who understood that sometimes the most advanced technology was no match for a blade in skilled hands. Another explosion rocked the station, stronger this time. The lights flickered briefly before the emergency power system stabilized them. Ben could hear weapons fire getting closer, which meant the Vorthens had already breached the outer defenses. He lifted the sword and tested its weight. For years of peaceful life had not changed the perfect balance of the weapon in his hands. His body remembered the countless hours of training, the muscle memory that had been drilled into him since childhood. Ben had hoped he would never need these skills again, but hope was a luxury that civilians could afford. He was not truly a civilian, no matter how much he wanted to be one. Ben secured the sword to his belt and walked toward the door. As he stepped into the corridor, he saw other researchers and scientists hurrying toward the emergency shelters. Dr. Finn the Xylonian rushed past, his fur standing up in panic. Dr. Calvara was helping an elderly Makari researcher who moved slowly on his walking stick. Dr. Torres, called Dr. Mira, the young human anthropologist. "You're going the wrong way. The shelters are in Section C." "I need to check something in my lab first," Ben replied calmly. "I'll be along shortly." The station shook again, and this time the lights stayed dim. Emergency lighting cast red shadows along the walls, giving everything an ominous appearance. Ben could hear the distinct sound of Vorthen weapons, a sharp crackling noise that their energy rifles made when firing. They were inside the station now. Ben made his way through corridors that were becoming increasingly empty as civilians reached safety and security teams took up defensive positions. He passed a checkpoint where 2 Altarian guards were setting up a defensive barrier. "Civilian, one of them called. You cannot go that direction. Hostiles have breached Section B. I understand, Ben said. But there are people trapped in the research labs who need help. Before the guards could respond, the sound of combat echoed from around the corner. Weapons fire, shouts, and the heavy footsteps of Vorthan warriors in their combat armor. Ben walked toward the noise while the guards stared at him in confusion. Sir, that's a combat zone, the second guard called out. Ben rounded the corner and saw the situation immediately. A squad of 8 Vorthan warriors had cornered a group of civilians in the main research corridor. The hostiles were massive beings, nearly 7 feet tall, with thick gray skin and bony ridges along their skulls. They wore black combat armor and carried energy weapons that could cut through most materials. Among the trapped civilians, Ben recognized several colleagues. Dr. Finn was pressed against the wall, trembling with fear. 2 young Xylonian research assistants, barely adults, cowered behind an overturned table. A Makari engineer was trying to shield 3 human technicians with his own body. The Vorthan squad leader was speaking in his harsh language to his troops, probably deciding which prisoners would be most valuable for their mining operations. Scientists and engineers were always high priorities for Vorthan slavers. Ben stepped into the corridor. Human, the squad leader growled in accented standard, pointing his weapon at Ben. Join the others. You come with us to the ships. The Vorthans all turned to look at Ben. He stood quietly for a moment, his hands relaxed at his sides. To the terrified civilians, he looked like just another helpless researcher about to become a prisoner. Even the Vorthans seemed to dismiss him as a threat. Then Ben drew his sword. The movement was so smooth and quick that most observers barely saw it happen. One moment the weapon was sheathed, the next it was in Ben's right hand, the dark blade seeming to drink in the emergency lighting. The Vorthan squad leader laughed, a harsh sound. Primitive weapon. You think to fight modern soldiers with ancient metal? Ben's response was not in words. He moved forward faster than any of the witnesses thought possible. His first strike removed the squad leader's weapon hand at the wrist. The second strike, delivered in the same fluid motion, opened the warrior's throat. The massive Vorthan dropped to the deck before his troops could even react. The remaining 7 Vorthans opened fire immediately, their energy weapons filling the corridor with deadly light. But Ben was no longer where their targeting systems expected him to be. He flowed between their shots like water, his blade deflecting the few energy bolts that came close to hitting him. The sword moved in patterns that seemed impossible, circular cuts that created perfect defensive barriers, straight thrusts that found gaps in armor with surgical precision. Dr. Finn watched in amazement as the quiet researcher he thought he knew became something entirely different. Ben's movements had a deadly grace that spoke of years of training and experience. Every step was placed perfectly, every strike served a purpose, every block flowed naturally into the next attack. The Vorthans tried to adjust their tactics, spreading out to surround him, but Ben anticipated their every move. He ducked under a horizontal energy blast, spun to slice through a warrior's leg armor, and used the falling body as a shield against return fire from the others. Within 2 minutes, all 8 Vorthan warriors lay motionless on the deck. Ben stood among them, his breathing steady and controlled. His sword was clean, the advanced metallurgy had been designed to repel biological matter, leaving the blade unmarked. The rescued civilian stared at him in complete silence. Dr. Finn's mouth hung open. The young Xylonian assistants pressed themselves against the wall, more afraid of Ben now than they had been of the Vorthans. Dr. Torres, whispered Dr. Mira. How did you do that? Ben looked at her for a moment, then sheathed his sword in one smooth motion. We need to get you to the emergency shelters, he said calmly. There will be more enemy troops. As if summoned by his words, the sound of combat echoed from deeper in the station. More Vorthans, moving through the research sections, probably looking for valuable prisoners and equipment. I don't understand, said the Makari engineer, his voice shaking. You're a plant biologist. Where did you learn to fight like that? Ben guided the group toward the emergency shelters, checking each corridor before they moved. People have different backgrounds, he said simply. The important thing now is getting everyone to safety. But as they moved through the station, word was already spreading through the communication networks. Security teams reported a friendly combatant engaging Vorthan forces with unusual effectiveness. The few security cameras that had captured glimpses of Ben in action had transmitted images that left the station's military commander speechless. Commander Zara, coordinating defenses from the main security center, received the first reports with disbelief. A single combatant cleared Section B. That's impossible. We had 8 confirmed hostiles in that area. Confirmed dead, Commander, came the reply. All 8 eliminated by blade weapons. The civilians report it was a human male, average height, dark hair. Zara's blood went cold. She knew only one person on the station who matched that description and had access to blade weapons. But Ben was supposed to be in the emergency shelters with the other civilians. Ben was a researcher, not a warrior. Ben had never even mentioned knowing how to fight. Get me a visual confirmation, she ordered, her voice tight with concern and confusion. The next report came 10 minutes later. Section A was clear, 12 more Vorthans down, same method of elimination. Then Section D. Then the main laboratory complex. With each report, the picture became clearer and more impossible to believe. Someone was moving through the station systematically, eliminating Vorthan troops with skills that surpassed even the station's elite security forces. And according to multiple witness reports, it was her husband. The last Vorthan transport ship disappeared into the darkness of space, carrying the surviving raiders away from Station Harmony. The attack had lasted 4 hours, but it felt like days to everyone who lived through it. Emergency teams moved through the corridors, checking for damage and treating the wounded. Ben Torres walked quietly through the main research section, stepping over scattered equipment and broken wall panels. His sword was clean and sheathed at his side. His research uniform was dirty but undamaged. To anyone who didn't know better, he looked like just another civilian surveying the aftermath of the attack. But everyone knew better now. The communication system buzzed with constant chatter as security teams reported their findings. Section B clear, no remaining hostiles. Medical teams to level 7, we have wounded Altarians here. Engineering reports main power will be restored in 2 hours. What the reports didn't say, but what everyone was thinking about, was the impossible combat performance they had witnessed. 37 Vorthan warriors had boarded the station. 12 had been eliminated by the station's security forces. 25 had been taken down by a single human with a sword. Ben made his way to the central hub, where emergency medical stations had been set up. Dr. Finn was being treated for shock, sitting on a medical bed while a Makari medic checked his vital signs. When he saw Ben approach, the small Xylonian's eyes went wide with a mixture of gratitude and fear. Dr. Torres, Finn said quietly. I wanted to thank you for saving us. But I have to ask, who are you really? Ben sat down on the edge of the medical bed next to Finn's. I'm exactly who I've always been. A xenobiologist who studies plant life and enjoys quiet evenings with his wife. But the way you fought, Finn continued. I've never seen anything like it. The Vorthans are supposed to be unstoppable in close combat. Everyone has hidden depths, Ben replied. You're an excellent engineer as well as a botanist, but most people only see one side of your abilities. Before Finn could respond, heavy footsteps echoed across the hub. Commander Zara approached with 3 other senior security officers. Her expression was a mixture of relief, confusion, and something that might have been anger. Ben, she said in a carefully controlled voice. We need to talk. Ben stood up and followed Zara to a private meeting room. The other officers remained outside, but Ben could see them through the transparent wall, watching with intense curiosity. Word had spread throughout the entire station about the mysterious human warrior who had appeared from nowhere. Zara closed the door and activated the privacy shields. For a moment, She just looked at her husband, as if seeing him for the first time. 37 Vorthons, she said finally. You took down 25 of them. Alone. With a sword. The security forces handled the other 12, Ben replied. They did excellent work under difficult circumstances. Don't deflect, Zara said, her voice rising slightly. I've been married to you for 3 years. I've seen you trip over your own feet getting out of bed. I've watched you struggle to open food containers. And today I find out you're some kind of super soldier. Ben sat down in one of the conference chairs. I never lied to you about anything important. I am a xenobiologist. I do love studying plant life. And I definitely enjoy quiet evenings with you. But you omitted some rather significant details about your background, Zara said, sitting across from him. Ben nodded slowly. Before I became a researcher, I served in a special unit of the Terran Defense Force. We were called the Shadow Wardens. Zara's eyes widened. Every military officer in the galaxy had heard whispers about the Shadow Wardens, but most people thought they were just rumors or propaganda. The Shadow Wardens were created during humanity's early expansion into space, Ben continued. When Earth first made contact with alien species, we discovered that the galaxy was a dangerous place. Some civilizations respected peaceful contact, but others saw humans as weak because we preferred diplomacy to conquest. Ben stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. The Wardens were trained from childhood in an ancient martial tradition that combined multiple Earth fighting styles with advanced tactical training. We learned to use both primitive and advanced weapons, to move silently through any environment, and to eliminate threats with minimal collateral damage. From childhood? Zara asked softly. I was selected at age 8, Ben said. Psychological testing showed I had the right combination of intelligence, physical potential, and emotional stability. My parents were told I was being enrolled in an advanced education program. Zara tried to process this information. How many Shadow Wardens were there? At the peak, about 200. We operated in small teams, usually alone. Our mission was to handle situations where regular military forces couldn't be effective. Hostage rescues, deep reconnaissance, elimination of high-value targets. And now? Zara asked. Now there are 12 of us left, Ben said quietly. Most retired to civilian life, like I did. A few still serve in advisory roles. The program was officially discontinued 15 years ago when galactic politics stabilized. The door chimed, and one of the security officers entered. Commander, the station leadership wants to debrief Dr. Torres about the combat action. Zara looked at Ben. Are you ready for this? Once word gets out about what happened here, your quiet life might be over. Ben considered this for a moment. People deserve to know the truth. And maybe it will help them understand humans better. The debriefing took place in the main conference room. Station Director Corvash, a distinguished Altarian with silver skin and ancient eyes, sat at the head of the table. The heads of all departments were present, along with senior security staff. Dr. Torres, Director Corvash began. Your actions today saved countless lives. But they also raise questions about human capabilities that we never considered. What questions specifically? Ben asked. Dr. Calvara leaned forward. We've always thought of humans as moderately advanced but primarily peaceful. Your species prefers negotiation and trade over military conquest. But what you demonstrated today suggests capabilities that rival the most advanced warrior races. Humans are peaceful by choice, not by limitation, Ben explained. We learned early in our history that violence creates more problems than it solves. But that doesn't mean we forgot how to defend ourselves. The Shadow Warden program, said Chief Security Officer Thane, a massive reptilian Dracori. How many other humans have this level of training? Very few, Ben replied honestly. But every human colony and space station has at least one person with advanced defensive training. We call them shepherds. They live normal lives, but they're ready to protect their communities if necessary. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Every alien present was recalculating their understanding of humanity's place in the galaxy. This explains some things, Director Korvash said slowly. Human trading ships travel through dangerous sectors without escorts. Human colonies in disputed territories never seem to have problems with raiders. We assumed you were just lucky. Preparation often looks like luck, Ben said. Dr. Mira, who had been quiet throughout the meeting, finally spoke. Why didn't you tell us? We're your friends, your colleagues. Ben looked around the table at faces he had worked with for years. Would it have changed anything? I chose to leave that life behind because I wanted something better. Research, discovery, building relationships with people from different worlds. The person you knew was real. The warrior was just something I used to be. But you still carried the sword, Zara pointed out. A shepherd always keeps his tools ready, Ben said. But I hoped I would never need to use them. The meeting continued for another hour, with Ben answering questions about human defensive capabilities and the Shadow Warden program. He was careful not to reveal classified information, but he shared enough to help the station's inhabitants understand what had really happened. As the meeting ended, Director Korvash made an announcement. This information will be shared with appropriate authorities, but it will not be broadcast publicly. Dr. Torres has the right to continue his peaceful life and his valuable research. Over the following days, life on Station Harmony slowly returned to normal. The damaged sections were repaired, new security protocols were implemented, and research activities resumed. But something fundamental had changed in how the alien crew members viewed their human colleagues. Ben returned to his laboratory and his plant specimens. Dr. Finn worked beside him, but their conversations had a new undertone of respect. Other researchers still sought Ben's advice on their projects, but now they also seemed to understand that humans might have hidden depths they had never considered. 1 week after the attack, Ben was working late in his lab when Zara found him examining samples under his microscope. How does it feel? She asked, sitting on the edge of his desk. How does what feel? Being seen differently. Before, people thought of you as a gentle scholar. Now they know you're also capable of incredible violence. Ben looked up from his microscope. I'm still a gentle scholar. The capacity for violence doesn't define a person any more than the capacity for kindness does. We are all complex beings with multiple facets. Zara smiled. That's very philosophical. I've had a lot of time to think about it, Ben said. The galaxy is a dangerous place, and sometimes good people need to do difficult things to protect what they love. But that doesn't mean violence is our first choice, or even our second choice. The station commander received a message from the Galactic Council today, Zara said. They're requesting information about human defensive capabilities. Word is spreading about what happened here. Ben nodded. That was always going to happen eventually. Maybe it's for the best. If other species understand that humans are capable of defending themselves, it might prevent future conflicts. Or it might make them more suspicious of us, Zara pointed out. Perhaps, Ben agreed. But suspicion based on strength is better than contempt based on perceived weakness. They sat together quietly for a while, watching the stars through the laboratory window. Ben had returned to his peaceful life, but now his colleagues understood that human peace was a choice, not a limitation. In the vast, dangerous galaxy, that distinction mattered more than most people realized. I love you, Zara said suddenly. I love you too, Ben replied. All of me, including the parts you didn't know about. Ben Torres continued his research into alien plant life, contributing to scientific knowledge that would benefit species across the galaxy. But now when he walked through the corridors of Station Harmony, other beings looked at him with a new understanding. They saw not just a gentle scholar, but a guardian who had chosen peace while maintaining the strength to protect it. And in the deep spaces around human colonies throughout the galaxy, potential raiders began to reconsider their plans, wondering what other quiet shepherds might be waiting among the seemingly peaceful researchers, farmers, and merchants of humanity.